But first, for kind of one of our main segments today that we're going to be looking at, let's go to the playoffs standings and kind of just predict what we think is going to happen, just kind of based off of midway point in the season, what we've seen the first half of the season. So let's predict who we think will be the NBA champions on just this season alone, or just this first half of the season alone. We've got the official bracket up here. So let's kind of quickly go over that. In the Western Conference, currently at the All-Star break, the Jazz are the 1 seed and the Mavericks are the 8th seed. So they will match up. If the season ended right now, this would be the 1-8 matchup. Then Clippers are at the 4 seed, Blazers at the 5 seed in the West. Lakers are the 3 seed, Nuggets are the 6 seed, so they go up against each other. And then Suns are the 2 seed. Crazy, right? What a fantastic finish to the first half of the season by the Suns. These last kind of 2-3 weeks by them, just absolutely magnificent, getting those wins and moving up into that number 2 seed, dethroning the Lakers since they lost Anthony Davis and went on a big losing streak. So we definitely got to commend this Spurs team a lot. And then the Spurs at the 7th seed in the West. So that is the Western Conference matchups in the first round if the season ended today. Now in the Eastern Conference, the Raptors are the 1 seed, or no, the 76ers are the 1 seed, the Raptors are the 8th seed. So well done for the Raptors for kind of clawing their way back in a little bit. We did see them kind of flounder in kind of the first half of the season. They kind of decently have been stepping it up this last month, getting some nice quality wins here and getting that 8th seed right before the All-Star break. All right, Celtics 4 seed, Knicks 5th seed. Yes, sir, Knicks get it done. This bench is getting it done. Julius Randle is having his best season, and the Knicks have somehow found their way to this 5th seed. And maybe this Knicks team is kind of like the Raptors team of the past kind of 2 years of just a lot of role players, a lot of kind of underdog stories all coming together and having great success here because everybody's on night in, night out, and they're getting some nice wins here at the 5th seed. So very well done to the Knicks. Bucks at 3, Heat at 6. Heat getting it figured out. What was Paul Pierce saying a couple weeks ago that, you know, the Heat weren't going to make the playoffs? Can y'all relax? We told y'all to relax. Jimmy Butler and Goran Dragic, you need both of those players in your starting lineup, or at least playing quality 25-plus minutes, basically starting minutes, if they want to have a chance to win. We saw Jimmy Butler out. That's why they kept losing. And then Jimmy Butler came back, but Goran Dragic was still out. That's why they kept losing. And now since they're back both starting in the now that they're both actually playing, they're 7-3 in their last 10, so they're fine, folks. They'll be fine. So Bucks, Heat, 3-6 seed in the East, and then to finish off the East, Nets have the 2 seed and the Hornets have the 7 seed. Very well done by this Hornets team. I think they have clawed their way back into the playoffs. I think they fell out for a little bit, but have found their way back in here at the 7th seed at 17-18. So we'll love to watch this Hornets team close out the second half of the season to maybe try to get a little bit, because you do not want to be the 7th or 8th seed in the East, because then you have to face the 76ers or the Nets. That's going to be the top 2 come the end of the season. So you definitely want to be somewhere between 3 and 6, so you have a more favorable matchup, and that's the Hornets cannot play the Nets first round, folks. They cannot do that. They will lose. Alrighty, so here we go. We're going to fill out the brackets and determine who we think will be the NBA champions based off the first half of the season. So here we go. We'll start at the West. We'll do all the first rounds, then we'll move to the second round. So here we go. Let's start top down. First matchup in the West. Jazz, Mavericks. All right, now the Jazz have been playing very well this season. They did kind of flounder a little bit kind of the last week and a half before the All-Star break, but at the end of the day, I mean, they're obviously clearly better than the Mavericks. Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert are getting it done on a consistent basis, and plus they are very deep. Mike Conley, we just saw he's getting into the All-Star game. They still got Joe Ingles. They still got, let me bring up all their rosters because I am not really not that I'm not remembering. I can't recall at the current moment. So let's go here. Whereas, you know, compared to the Mavericks team, I mean, Luka's the only one consistently putting in work. Nobody else is really doing anything consistent on that team. Not even really Porzingis, and I'm a little disappointed in him. And once again, we have to recall what happened to the Mavericks in the last year in the bubble. Just Porzingis not being healthy and being out there on the floor, leaving Doncic all by himself. And he still was very close of still getting far deep into that playoff run without Porzingis, but still just couldn't get enough production out of everybody else. So what else we get? yeah. Royce O'Neal, absolutely a great 4. And Georges Niang is definitely underrated there off the bench. And then, yes, sir, Jordan Clarkson, the 6th man of the year. So absolutely stacked team. They're deep. Joe Ingles, Mike Conley, Donovan Mitchell. We've seen him step up time and time again. And like we say, that pick and roll between Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert is truly almost unguardable, because if you double team Rudy Gobert, then Donovan Mitchell keeps the 3. That's cash money most of the time. If you double team, Donovan Mitchell, then Rudy Gobert underneath the basket, that's easy money as well. And if you're indecisive, they'll make you pay. They'll find out whatever's the best shot, whether you're kind of sagging off of Rudy Gobert down low. If you're sagging off Donovan Mitchell, they will make you pay. So you really can't do anything against this Jazz team when they're all on. So we're going to have the Jazz beat the Mavericks in the first round of the playoffs here. So let's slide their name over here. Alrighty, so we get the Jazz beating the Mavericks. Alrighty, now the second matchup in the West, the Clippers and the Blazers. And I kind of love what the Blazers are doing this season. No CJ McCollum, no Yusuf Nurkic for basically this entire first half of the season. And Damian Lillard is single-handedly carrying his team to this 5th seed with a fantastic record. I mean, folks, look at this record, 21-14. There's not a lot of teams with a better record than them. Yes, 1, 2, 3, 4 in the West because, obviously they're higher seeding. But when we look at the East, who's got 21 wins? Only 3 teams in the East. So this Blazers team is so freaking good. Damian Lillard is getting it done all by himself. And, Carmelo is still having great production off the bench. Gary Trent Jr. is a little hit and miss, not great. Enes Kanter is having a great kind of season here, making up for Nurkic down low. So, I mean, they're making it work without 2 of their starters up there. So once those starters return, the bench will get even deeper. Damian Lillard won't have to do as much on a nightly basis, even though it doesn't even matter because he's still 100% clutch whenever he needs to be. So I'm absolutely in love with this Blazers team on what they're doing, what Damian Lillard is doing. And now when we talk about the Clippers, I mean, we're talking about load management, Kawhi Leonard in and out all the time, Paul George in and out all the time, not playing together consistently when one player's in and the other's out, not having great success. When they're both out, the role players step up and have decent games, but that doesn't kind of translate back to when the starters get back in there. So they don't have all that chemistry together. So honestly, I'm ready to call the upset here. Blazers win it here. I would take them straight up in a 7-game series over this Clippers team. This Clippers team has done nothing this season to impress me. I am 0 impressed on this Clippers team. They're the most well-rested team in the league right now, and they're still not getting it done or winning consistently. They're the 4th seed in the West with all that rest. What? How many losses do they have? Let's check that real quick. How do you have 14 losses when you're the most well-rested team? You're taking breaks every freaking day, every game, every other game. Somebody's in, nobody's out, or somebody's out, nobody's in, nobody wants to play. And then once everybody's in together, they're like, how do we play together? We barely all played together. So how do we do this? How do we close out games? Because that was our problem last season. They still haven't fixed that. They just couldn't close out against the Bucks like 3 games ago when they had like a 4-point lead in like late in the 4th quarter, and they still couldn't close it out and lose. So what have the Clippers done? Nothing. So yes, I'm calling the upset. Blazers beat the Clippers. Yes, sir. Because at the end of the season, this Blazers team, hopefully everybody's healthy and ready to rock. And, Damian Lillard is still fantastic throughout this entire season, so he's going to be on. So I'm giving the Blazers that 7-game series win over the Clippers 5-4. That 5-4 matchup in the West. Yeah, we're taking the Blazers. All right, let's move on to Lakers and Nuggets now. Alrighty, now we just saw this matchup last season in the bubble for the Western Conference semis. So, I mean, what more did the Nuggets need to step up a little bit? And they still couldn't get it done. Lakers win at 4-1. Anthony Davis will probably be healthy at the end of the season, so he'll be good to go. And if Anthony Davis is in against this Nuggets team, we got to take the Lakers here because AD is one of the few bigs that can guard the perimeter and the low post when he needs to. So that basically takes Jokic out of the equation, and then Jamal Murray has to step it up a little bit more, and Michael Porter Jr. has to step it up a little bit more. Now, Michael Porter Jr. has been good these last kind of two weeks ever since he got back from the bench, and they put him at the 4. He's actually having great success at the 4 here this last kind of week and a half. But overall, the Nuggets' best player is clearly Jokic. The number 2 option is clearly Jamal Murray, and the number 3 option is clearly Michael Porter Jr., but LeBron's going to be able to take away, Michael Porter Jr. or whoever he's on, or Dennis Schroeder's going to be able to lock up Jamal Murray, and that AD locking up Jokic is the biggest factor. That's why the Lakers won it 4-1 last year against this same Nuggets team. Nothing's really changed between this Lakers and Nuggets team, so we're still going to take the Lakers here. LeBron gets it done. AD's healthy. As long as AD is healthy, they beat the Nuggets, no problem. Alrighty, and then the final first-round matchup in the Western Conference, the Suns and the Spurs, and this Suns team, yes, sir, Chris Mother-loving Paul, point God. We saw what he did last year with the Thunder, the 4th seed in the West. Did they make it past? They did make it past the first round of the playoffs right here. Oh, no, they didn't. Oh, they lost to Houston first round 4-3, close, but they took it 7 games, and that's what Chris Paul can bring to your lineup. And now, he's even got a better supporting cast. His supporting cast last season at OKC was Luguentz Dort. And Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, obviously, but Luguentz Dort was stepping it up kind of with Chris Paul, and now he's having a real bad season here. So he kind of upgrades. He upgrades Luguentz Dort and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander for Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton. Folks, yes, sir. This is a clearly better supporting cast for Chris Paul, and they're making it all work. They're the 2 seed here and getting it done. So I absolutely love that. Now, they definitely knew this Suns team definitely needs their bench to step up a little bit more. The 2 Camerons, Cameron Payne, Cameron Johnson, Jay Crawford. He's been stepping it up kind of consistently, so we have been seeing that. But the other Cameron Johnson, Cameron Payne need to have good nights. They all kind of need to go for 10+ points, both the Camerons off the bench. But I'm liking what I'm seeing here from Chris Paul, Devin Booker, and DeAndre Ayton. They're all getting it done really kind of every single game. Now we look at the Spurs. This Spurs team is a little sneaky under the radar. I think this is like the only team that doesn't really get a lot of play, even though they are currently in the playoffs. And now they have kind of slid a little bit, because I believe they were a little bit higher than the 7th seed. I want to say that they up to the 6th at one point. They may have, but they have been floundering a little bit here the past week and a half. A lot of ins and outs, a lot of key players not playing, especially on the bench. So that's why they've been going down a little bit. But the Spurs do have great defense, and this would be a close series. Greg Popovich, he didn't make the playoffs last year. They're kind of getting right this year defensively. Everybody's kind of decently stepping it up, and they are having decent success against kind of the top tier teams. This is a true good team here. This Spurs team, don't sleep on the Spurs team. They are good. But at the end of the day, I'm taking Chris Paul over everybody. I'm taking Devin Booker. He's still clutch as all heck, carried it over from the bubble last season to this season. So got to give it to the Suns here. Chris Paul's maybe last best chance at a ring here, potential. So gonna take the Suns over the Spurs here in the 2-7 matchup in the West. Alrighty, so that's the first round all in the West. So let's go to the East now. First round, 76ers and the Raptors. Folks, I'm telling you, when the 76ers starting roster is all on, they are one of the most unstoppable starting rosters in the entire league, folks. Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, Tobias Harris, Seth Curry, Danny Green. It really just comes down to Danny Green. If Danny Green can get it done, if he's having 12 to 15 plus points, he's shooting 4 or 5 from 3. I'll even give him 3 or 5 from 3. If he's hitting that good number from 3, they're going to win the entire thing. I'll say it right now. It all hinges on Danny Green, and we just saw Danny Green last year for the Lakers. Really couldn't be clutch. Remember the game-winning 3? I think it was either Game 4 or Game 5 to really close out, I think, the finals against the Heat, and he missed a wide-open 3 and had to go into overtime, and I think they still won the game at the end of the day. But, Danny Green, please be clutch for once in your life. Ugh. So, all that being said, love the 76ers team. Now this Raptors team is, I have been saying they've been kind of running out of their magic a little bit. What made this Raptors team so good was kind of all the role players, Fred VanVleet, Pascal Siakam. I don't really count them as true superstars. Same thing with Norman Powell. The only superstar on that kind of Raptors team is Kyle Lowry. Everybody else is kind of a nice supporting cast, and everybody on that Raptors starting lineup would have great game. Everybody's putting up, 12, 15 plus points. Your main guys, Siakam, Kyle Lowry, Fred VanVleet, are all kind of putting up 20 plus points. Same thing with Norman Powell. So they do have good players on their team that can go for 20 plus points every single game, but they haven't all been doing it in the first half of the season. That's why they've been floundering a little bit. That's why they're the 8th seed. What were they last year in the bubble? I think they were decently higher. Where were they? The 2 seed. They were the 2 seed last year, folks. So they have definitely fallen off hard. Nick Nurse is still a great coach. It's just they're running out of that magic a little bit. They definitely need that superstar. They need another superstar on that team. And it's no disrespect to Fred VanVleet or Pascal Siakam. They're good role players. They're good supporting cast. They're just not ready to kind of elevate their game to kind of that superstar status, and kind of get it done consistently and kind of be the man every game, night in and night out this season. So they have been falling off a little bit. This is kind of their last kind of season on this magical Raptors run. I don't think this Raptors team is going to be good if they keep everybody like what they've been doing the last 2-3 seasons. So ever since they, with Kawhi, that was when they're at their peak. Their first year without Kawhi, they were still good, still trending up, and now that 2 years removed of Kawhi, they are finally starting to kind of run out of that kind of underdog magic that they've been working with. So we've been giving the Raptors a chance to kind of turn it around in our eyes. We put them in the top 10 a couple weeks ago. They didn't really kind of hold up to that standard, so we had to drop them, and now they're the 8th seed, and just nothing really fantastic about them. But they do have the ability to kind of turn it around the back half, but what we've seen so far, this is a clear, easy matchup. 76ers win it all day. Nobody's going to be able to stop Joel Embiid, and Ben Simmons can lock up anybody on this Raptors team one-on-one, no doubt. He can take 1 through 5. He can defend it all. So the defense is going to be a little bit too much for this Raptors to overcome, and the 76ers win the first round matchup. All right, now we go to the Celtics and Knicks here. Now, this is interesting. We have to take it as, the Celtics, we don't know what they do at the trade deadline, even though they need to do something desperately, probably get another big. But what they have on this current roster right now, this will probably go 6 or 7 games. This will probably be the closest matchup here, probably in all of the first round matchups of the playoffs. This Knicks-Celtics 4-5 matchup in the East. Now, this Knicks team, what do they need to do to be successful on a nightly basis? They need their starters to all put up 10 plus points, and then they need, at least 2 players off their bench to put up 10 points as well, 10 plus points as well, if they want to have a chance. Now, they do have a lot of pieces to do that with. We know, obviously, in the starting lineup, we can obviously count on RJ Barrett to get it done. We can obviously count on Julius Randle, the freaking all-star selection there, so we can definitely count on those 2 players. Now, Derrick Rose has been elevated to that starting lineup, and he's been looking really good his few games that he's been playing in New York since he got there, but so that's working out very well. And then the bench of Emmanuel Quickley, Taj Gibson, I know I'm forgetting others on that bench, but they do have that kind of firepower off the bench when they need it. So when they're all on, this is a good, solid Knicks team. We haven't really seen them beat the best teams consistently. We've seen them go against kind of the middle of the road, a little bit below average teams, and they are having great success against those teams. But we definitely want to see them, play some of these playoff teams and see how they fare. But this Knicks team at the 5, they are kind of all playing decently well here. Now, the Celtics, obviously they got some stars. Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, absolutely killing it. Kemba Walker, little bit of a wild card, taking way too many threes, kind of like what Blake Griffin's doing. You need to cut down on the threes. The only person I want taking 12 to 15 threes a game is on the Celtics team is either Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown. I don't want that coming from Kemba Walker, though he keeps on doing it. They obviously need Marcus Smart back, and he most likely would be back for this finals. So this would really come down to the wire. And I hate myself for doing this, but I have to take the Celtics here. Just at the end of the day, like I said, the series would probably go 6 or 7, and if it went 7, I just have to go with who is your superstar and who can I trust the most to get it done. And I'm taking Jason Tatum out of the entire pool of players between the Celtics and the Knicks. I'm taking Jason Tatum. If my game is on the line, if my playoff life is on the line, it's Game 7, fourth quarter tie game with a minute left. I'm taking Jason Tatum. And then for my number 2, who am I taking? Jaylen Brown. So the two best players out of the entire pool of both of these teams here are on the Celtics. So I think it's going to go either 6 or 7 if this is a true matchup. And I'll take Jason Tatum at home, Game 7. Jaylen Brown at home, Game 7. I'll take the Celtics here. But this is a good stepping stone for this Knicks team. I mean, if they get if they get a trade at the trade deadline after the All-Star break, I mean, this Knicks team could go above and beyond, absolutely, if they get a nice, great piece. Don't really know what they would be missing. Maybe a great number 3, a good 5 possibly as well. I do like Nerlens Noel, but if you can get him off the bench, that would be kind of great, actually. So the Knicks do have a lot of potential here, but just of what they have right now, I can't really trust all those role players to get it done consistently. We just saw Emmanuel quickly put up 0 points to his last game. I mean, I know it's just one game, but it's still something that I do kind of take not hugely into account, but smidgely into account. And we're talking about a 6-7 game series here, close series. Every game is starting to matter here. So Celtics beat the Knicks opening round. Alrighty, Bucks Heat 3-6 matchup, and this is a no-brainer, folks. Heat all day. Come on, we just saw this exact same matchup last year in the bubble. Kind of nobody really got any better players. Nobody really lost any key players from that last series. So yes, we're taking the Heat here. Did they win like 4? They won 4. They won 4-1, folks. I mean, that's a gentleman's sweep. I mean, it's a blowout. That's a clear, dominant, better team, better performance every single game by this Heat team. And like I said, they just need Jimmy Butler and Goran Dragic. That's all they freaking need, folks. They can have Kendrick Nunn have a good game or not. It doesn't matter. Bam Adebayo. As long as they have Jimmy Butler, Goran Dragic, and Bam Adebayo. Bam Adebayo is just a 3. They just clearly need Jimmy Butler and Goran Dragic, but definitely, Bam Adebayo, he's the beef, so you obviously want him. But then it doesn't matter who shows up. Kendrick Nunn, it doesn't matter. Tyler Hero, it doesn't matter. Kelly Olynyk, I mean, him in the starting lineup is just not great, so him coming off the bench is decently as well, but it doesn't matter who comes in and who steps up and who doesn't have a good game as long as the big 3 is there, usually just the big 2 of Jimmy Butler, Goran Dragic, obviously Bam Adebayo. Definitely helps against this Bucks team to kind of soak up some of that beef of Giannis and Brook Lopez, but let's talk about this Bucks team. There's nobody clutch on this team, 0 clutchness. It hasn't even just started the season. It goes back to last season, obviously in the bubble. I mean, they weren't even clutch then. Can't even beat a Heat team when you have all that better size, but they can't hit the 3. What do the Bucks struggle with the most? The 3. They can't guard the 3. If you have a great 3-point shooter, if you have a great big that can kind of soak up some of that beef of Brook Lopez and Giannis, I mean, that just makes it absolutely fantastic because everybody in Milwaukee is pretty beefy just by nature. So just the kind of entire team of this Bucks team is decently beefy. So obviously, if you have a great big that can soak up some of that, and then if you have the 3-point shooting, you extend the floor, you spread the floor out, and that's what the Heat have. They got the nice beef and Bam Adebayo. They got the 3-point shooting, Goran Dragic, Tyler Hero, Kendrick Nunn. Jimmy Butler's not the greatest, but he can go 2 of 3, 1 of 2. Decently stretch the floor. You have to kind of respect it a tad. So I'm taking the Heat here, folks, over this Bucks team. Nobody's clutch. Giannis can't hit the 3s consistently, not spreading the floor, so you just guard him in the low post, and that's fine. Who's going to make you pay? Chris Middleton? Not really. He doesn't really step it up consistently or in the crunch time. Dante DiVincenzo, he had 1 game-winning charge this season, and he thinks he's like the best defender, just kind of pure clutch player that he is, but he's not. Nobody really steps it up here. Now, they did get who they just get back here? I want to say, is it Drew Holiday? Is that who I'm thinking of? Let's double check really quick. Was it Drew Holiday? Is that it? I think that's who I'm thinking of. Who is it? Yeah, Drew Holiday. They did just get Drew Holiday back, which is definitely going to help him. I mean, he just came in and was clutch absolutely in their last game against the Grizzlies where, John Morant hit the game winner and then Drew Holiday said, "Hold my beer, I'll hit a better one." And he ended up winning the game for the Bucks. So, if Drew Holiday can definitely, turn this team around and be that clutch factor and be that kind of spread the floor factor that they need, then definitely he can kind of rival the Heat. But what we've just seen in this first half of the season goes back to last season as well. I got to keep this Heat team. So we're having the Heat once again beat the Bucks in the playoffs. Alrighty, and then the last matchup in the East is Nets and Hornets. And as much as I love the Hornets, folks, I voted LaMelo Ball as an all-star, a starting all-star. I'm super impressed by this team. They've got some nice young pieces over there. Just don't think they're ready to kind of rival a superpower team in the Nets. I mean, folks, just with James Harden and Kyrie Irving, I don't expect this Hornets team to win. And then if you add a healthy Kevin Durant, you get 0% chance there. So unfortunately, love this Hornets team. That's why I don't want to see this Hornets team be the 7th or 8th seed. I want to see them climb to at least the 6th seed so they can have a favorable matchup. I'd give them a decent chance if they had to go against the Bucks. Let's just say they kind of switched places here between the Heat and the Hornets. So the Hornets go to the 6th seed, the Heat drop down to the 7th. I'd give the Hornets a decent chance to beat the Bucks, probably go 6 or 7 games, and we'll see, but Giannis definitely against Cody Zeller is going to be an eat up all day by Giannis. That's kind of where this Hornets team flounders. They don't have a true great big. Cody Zeller is decent, kind of maybe a tad slightly above average, very, very minuscule. But that's kind of what they're missing there. But yeah, I would have them rival the Bucks. They would beat the Celtics. They would beat the Knicks. I would definitely say that. I would give them a great chance of beating both of those teams. So if they can get out of that kind of number 7 or 8 seed for this Hornets team, they can make a run to that second round of the playoffs. And hey, I'll take that. I'll take a Hornets rookie season LaMelo Ball first round of the playoff win. I would love to see that. So can't give them a win here against the Nets, unfortunately. So yeah, just do not be the 7th or 8th seed, please, Hornets, please. Want to see you go a little deep, not too deep because you're not that great quite yet, but you got some nice pieces to win a first round matchup if you have a favorable matchup. Alrighty, so there it is. The 76ers, Celtics, Heat, and Nets all advanced. So let's go back up to the top here in the West and do round 2 here. Alrighty, then we get the Jazz and the Blazers, and I really think this Blazers team can rival the Jazz pretty decently here. Probably go 6 or 7 games. Once again, I'm expecting Nurkic and CJ McCollum to both be in. Nurkic can probably lock up Rudy Gobert decently down low. Kind of, it would be a very intense battle. Did they face last year in the bubble? No. Yeah, Utah couldn't even make it past the first round, unfortunately. Neither did the Blazers because they had to face the Lakers first round. All right, so they didn't meet in the bubble. And oh man, Damian Lillard over Donovan Mitchell. I mean, remember last year, Nuggets and Jazz, and it would be Jamal Murray goes off, and then Donovan Mitchell goes off. That's why I went 7 games. So I really think the Blazers would have a real great chance at rivaling this Jazz team. Jordan Clarkson, but then, coming off the bench for the Jazz, definitely great there. But the way Carmelo's playing and just the clutchness of Damian Lillard, man, Enes Kanter as well as the backup big. Man, oh man, I think it would go 6 or 7, folks. I truly do. The way the Jazz have been playing this last week have been kind of making me think they're getting a little exposed. 6-4 in their last 10 when we're kind of used to them 8-10, 9-1 in their last 10. Big 7-8 win streaks there. But they did kind of flop here at the back half. How much do we penalize them for that? Joe Ingles is great. Oh, man, this would be, I really hope we get this at some point this season because I'm telling you, they would rival each other great. They would match up so freaking great. Ugh. Let me see. Did they have they faced this season? Let's, how can I look up this quickly? What can we do here? All right, let's see if we can get this. Let's see. I may just take up the straight game-to-game matchup. I may just take that as the gospel, honestly. Let's see. Let's see if we can do this very quickly here. I do want to give it to the Blazers. I want to say the Blazers win it, honestly. 7-game series. This website's going slow, so we may just have to call it. Come on. Come on. Alrighty, here we go. What do we get? That's preseason. Alright, here we go. When had they faced? You're telling me they faced game 1? Oh, game 1, day 1. Jazz win. Wow, the first game of the season, Jazz win 120-100. Oof. They faced again. Please tell me they faced again. At least get it to a 1-1 tie, so maybe we can break it. Ugh. What do we get? Still only that one matchup. Still only that one matchup. Still only that one matchup. Oh, now we're in April. All right, so we haven't gotten that far yet. Alrighty. Well, I said we'd take it as the gospel, so this would be a great series. We'll call it Jazz, though. We'll call it Jazz. Blazers lose in 7. Damn, that's going to be a great one, folks. Truly could go either way. Alrighty, now let's move on to Lakers and the Suns. And the Suns team can definitely rival this Lakers team. But at the end of the day, it's LeBron James, it's Anthony Davis. And once again, the Suns team would, have to run into a greater opponent than themselves. Now, Chris Paul and DeAndre Ayton definitely can make it work, but like this, it's just a little bit too much lackluster on the bench for the Suns, not stepping it up consistently. Now, this Lakers bench isn't any that much better. I mean, Talen Horton-Tucker, Alex Caruso, Kyle Kuzma, depending on what role he plays when Anthony Davis comes back. But, no real great step up for this Lakers team. And same thing with the Suns, besides their big three, Chris Paul, DeAndre Ayton, and Devin Booker. Same thing with the Lakers' big three, LeBron James, AD, and Dennis Schroeder. It's just like no real great contribution between everybody else. Nobody else besides those big threes on both of those teams that you can kind of rely on if one of the big three is out for them to kind of step up in that role and get that same solid production. I'm not talking, consistently. I'm just talking for one game. We really can't count on anybody else. So I'm going to take the Lakers here. It's LeBron, folks. He gets it done. He hasn't missed a game at all this season. He gets it done. Well, he missed the last game because, obviously, no AD, last game before the All-Star break. So we'll give him that one. But going to say the Lakers beat the Suns here. It's just LeBron, folks. LeBron and AD together are an unstoppable force. We just saw it last season. I mean, folks, look at all their wins here. 4-1 against Portland, 4-1 against Houston, 4-1 against Denver, 4-2 against the Heat. I mean, they literally ran through everybody. Now, this, Suns team is still good. Don't get us wrong, but at the end of the day, they'll still get ran through by this Lakers team. I don't think any kind of, no doubt, maybe 6 games. 5-6 games. So we're going to put the Lakers up here. Lakers, Jazz, Western Conference Finals. Alrighty, let's see who these Eastern Conference Finals are going to be. Here we go. First matchup in the semis. 76ers and the Celtics, and yes, 76ers all day. This Celtics team doesn't have a great big at all. Daniel Tice over Joel Embiid, stop it. Robert Williams over Joel Embiid, stop it even more. Tristan Thompson over Joel Embiid, please stop, all right? So, the Celtics teams, they don't have a great big, and you need a good big to rival this 76ers team, and they don't have that. So Celtics would probably get swept in the series, honestly. 5-1, 4-0, that's what it's going to, or 4-1, 4-0, that's what this matchup would be. The Celtics, they don't have that great big. There's only so much Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown can do for the Celtics team. Nobody else really steps up. They get nobody else. If Kemba Walker has a good game, that's really all you can count on. You can count on nobody else. Maybe Marcus Smart if he's healthy in the first quarter, but to have a clutch shot, you can't trust on Marcus Smart for that. So the defense of the 76ers, the beef of Joel Embiid is just too much for the Celtics to overcome. So the 76ers win it kind of decently. All right, and then the last one in the East, Heat and the Nets, and just we have to give it to the Nets. I mean, we're talking about three fantastic superstars, and the fact that James Harden is absolutely killing it at the point guard position. I mean, having, 30, 15, 14 games, just absolutely triple doubles that are absolutely mammoth, not putting up a lot of shots, having Kyrie kind of, hey, Kyrie, you want to be the main guy, then here's the shots. I'm going to shoot better than you, and I'm going to put up probably more points on the nightly basis, but go ahead and call me the point guard. That's fine, Kyrie. Be delusional. We don't care. As long as we're winning, I don't care. I was in Houston for all these years. I don't care. I was losing. I just want somebody else to be good. And Kyrie Irving is good and can score the ball, so I'll let him have the biggest head he wants. I do not care. I just came from Russell Westbrook. I will definitely praise Kyrie Irving if that's what it takes for him to be good. So, gonna give it to the Nets here. This Heat team, they're just not going to have the consistent firepower to keep up with the Nets. And, the matchup between their bigs of, Bam Adebayo and DeAndre Jordan, it's going to kind of cancel each other out. Maybe a slight advantage to Adebayo, but at the three-point shooting at that point, I mean, it goes to the Nets kind of 1,000%. So, and plus you can count on their supporting cast of Bruce Brown and Joe Harris. Joe Harris has been playing phenomenal, folks. He's playing phenomenal. He's hitting, 60% of threes, still getting 15 to 19 points a game, even when James Harden's going for 30 and Kyrie's going for 30. This man can still find the great shots and the great opportunity and those great productions in those points column for Joe Harris. So the supporting cast for this Nets team, got to give it to the Nets here. Alrighty, so we've got the Final Four, Jazz, Lakers, 76ers, and the Nets. Let's see who goes to the finals. Alrighty, Jazz, Lakers should be a great matchup, but Rudy Gobert cannot guard the perimeter. He can't guard it. So Anthony Davis, if he's hitting the threes, which he can, that's the advantage right there. Plus, you got LeBron James, and then you got, Dennis Schroeder versus Donovan Mitchell. And, I do like Donovan Mitchell a little bit better, but Dennis Schroeder is still kind of a viable option, a serviceable point guard out there. Great defender as well. Decent at hitting the three. Kind of has to step that up a little bit more. So they win the big matchup, which is a huge advantage to the Lakers, but the Jazz do kind of have the depth and the consistency shooting on the bench. I can count on Jordan Clarkson. I can count on Joe Ingles to hit those threes, where the Lakers, who am I trusting to hit the threes in the clutch time besides, the big three? I can't trust Kyle Kuzma. I can't trust Alex Caruso. I may be able to trust Taylor Horton Tucker just this season, but maybe I haven't seen him in kind of a East or Western Conference Finals game. So they do win the big matchup. That is a huge matchup. Jazz have kind of the bench, the scoring bench to overtake the Lakers. I do think this one would probably go 6 or 7, but at the end of the day, I think I still got to give it to this Lakers team. I really don't see them floundering when the big three is there. We've seen not really too many games where the Jazz are floundering when everybody's in the starting lineup. Mike Conley's there, Donovan Mitchell is there, Rudy Gobert is all there. Haven't really seen too many games of them floundering as well when all the stars are healthy. So definitely going to be a close one. But it's LeBron and AD, folks. Like, they just ran through the playoffs last year. We've got to take that into some consideration. Nobody was able to kind of go 7 games. Nobody was able to kind of rival the Lakers the entire time. And I mean, folks, we're talking about some decent teams here. Portland last year, they were getting hot. They were streaking in the bubble. They were great. And the Lakers said, no problem. You're done. You're out of here. Leave. 4-1 win. Same thing with the Houston Rockets. I mean, they still had James Harden. They still had that. They were still small ball, and that definitely hurt them against AD, but they had some nice shooters out there and still ran through them 4-1. Then they get to Denver, who's kind of exactly like the Jazz. The Jazz and the Denver Nuggets are really kind of the exact same team, just one has a better point guard over their big, and one has a better big over their point guard. That's really the difference there between these two teams. So, and the Lakers still ran through them 4-1, so I really don't see anything changing here this season, especially when this Lakers team is kind of exactly the same that they were. Yes, they, losing some pieces of Dwight Howard and, Rondo, but all those players really only made great contributions for maybe one playoff series, and then another player would step up, and they've got some potential players to step up in those roles as well, that they can kind of, all right, let's step up, let's have them step up here, and, let's switch the rotation around so we have a favorable matchup here. So at the end of the day, still got to give it to the Lakers until they prove us wrong. I mean, folks, just last season in the finals, or in that playoff run, was just something wild, folks, just running through everybody, no problem. So we get the Lakers beating the Jazz. Jazz are like the Nuggets. Lakers ran through the Nuggets last year, no problem. They do it again this season. They beat the Jazz. AD, folks, he's a problem, and Rudy Gobert's not going to be able to guard him. He's not going to be able to guard AD. That's all it is. Alrighty, now let's head over to the Eastern Conference Finals. Here we go, 76ers and the Nets, and this one's going to be great as well. Joel Embiid will dominate. He'll dominate. DeAndre Jordan cannot keep up with Joel Embiid. He's not going to be able to guard the perimeter with Joel Embiid out there, so that's a clear matchup for the 76ers. But then we just got some hitters, folks. We got some hitters on this Nets team. Durant, Harden, Irving, Bruce Brown, Joe Harris. I mean, at the end of the day, I think the firepower might be a little bit too much for this 76ers team. Now, we do get great defense by Ben Simmons, but it's just going to be too much for him to do it alone. Now, we're going to have to start looking at, Tobias Harris, which I definitely think can step it up and be that true defender and be that great scorer that they're going to need to rival this Nets team in a 7-game series. But now when we're looking at, all right, now we're going to have to go deep, because this Nets team is deep of just James Harden, Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, DeAndre Jordan, Bruce Brown, Joe Harris. So the 76ers need to be that deep. So when we're looking at the 4th and 5th option, we're looking at Seth Curry, who's been a little hit and miss, this first half of the season, and then Danny Green, who's been a lot more misses than hits. So when we're going at the depth, we got to give it to the Nets. The one thing the 76ers have greatly is kind of that great big, kind of like what the Lakers have over the Jazz. But at the end of the day, I mean, we just saw Kevin Durant. He's going to be clutch. He was clutch with the Warriors, the freaking game winner over LeBron in the finals. Just step up, dribble, cash, 3 feet from the three-point line, pulling up and shooting, icing the game. So at the end of the day, the clutchness, the firepower of the Nets, unfortunately, I think will overpower the defense and the big ability that the 76ers have. And it's just going to be unfortunate for the 76ers team. There's nothing you can do about it, honestly. It's just the Nets are wild. They got everybody. Yeah, you can't really blame yourself. You did exactly what you could do. You got to the Eastern Conference Finals. I think they would make it competitive 6 or 7 games, but at the end of the day, I'm taking the clutchness, the firepower, the big 3 over Joel Embiid, potential MVP. And then we get the Lakers and the Nets. Ooh, this is going to be great. If we can get this, honestly, LeBron James versus, the freaking goon squad of Kevin Durant, who betrayed him. Well, they didn't really betray him, but was a rival with the Warriors. Kyrie Irving, who has betrayed him. James Harden, who he's never played with. So that will be a true interesting matchup. I think LeBron would go absolutely beast mode, and literally he would die on the court in this series to be competitive. He would die. He would say, all right, I'll cut my career ending this season if at least I can go 6 or 7 games against this Nets, and at the end of the day have a kind of a 50-50 chance of winning the game, depending on how clutch I am down the stretch, how much I exert my body, and how much I truly sacrifice to beat this Nets team. So I think this is a fantastic matchup. I think we all want to see this. Come on, can we be real for a second? Whoever you root for, whoever your team is, you're telling me you don't want to see LeBron versus a real life kind of all-star monsters from freaking Space Jam. You're telling me you wouldn't want to see LeBron James versus, his ex-protege, Kyrie Irving, who didn't want to be his protege, who wanted to be a true number 1, Kevin Durant, who's all about the mother love and rings, and James Harden, who's just like, hey, I'll do whatever it takes. I'm a true kind of competitor. I'm a true team player. You're telling me you wouldn't want to see LeBron James go against the best 3 players ever assembled on a team, maybe rivaling, what the Warriors did with Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Kevin Durant? Come on, let's be a little real here. So, man, oh man, this is gonna be crazy. This is gonna be crazy. Kyrie Irving. The only thing I can think of is Kyrie Irving just kind of gets in his own head and just kind of takes like 35 shots a game on like 30% shooting, and really just kind of not very well out there to try to prove, hey, LeBron, I'm great, respect me. Man, this goes 6 or 7. LeBron James, AD stretches the floor. DeAndre Jordan won't be able to guard him, but you'll have help defense. I'm sure Kevin Durant will help over. if they have Kevin Durant as at the 4, depending on what they kind of have as their starting lineup. You know, that's another problem. We haven't really seen a Nets really kind of consistent starting lineup of who's really going to be like the starting 5 there, because Durant's been out and Kyrie Irving's been out a little bit. But at the end of the day, the Nets firepower, folks, it's just great. I mean, James Harden's playing so freaking great. Kevin Durant can be clutch every single game. And I mean, at the end of the day, you've got 3 great people that can take that last shot. Or the Lakers, I only want LeBron James or Anthony Davis, and really kind of just LeBron James taking that last shot. So I think we got to give it to the Nets here in a 7-game series of winning the finals. That's what we got, folks. Nets winning. Nets Lakers finals. Nets winning in 7. Yep. Alrighty, that is our mid-season NBA finals playoff bracket simulation. Nets win in 7.